I have one primary reason why I've backed Leave. I voted in the first referenda to come out of the common market as it then was. I didn't believe it was going to end as a common market, but it would end as a superstate, and I don't think that's right for this country, nor actually other countries in Europe. I think a sense of identity, of place, of country loyalty is crucial, and we break those loyalties down. We do tend to get into real difficulties. On this occasion, I was, in a sense, a Leave supporter on balance. I could see the arguments for not leaving, but on balance I believed it right for the destiny of this country. I advised people to draw on everything they knew and felt about their country when they voted. On the referendum day, I said facts are unimportant compared with what you feel is the destiny of our country. And my constituency voted, as did the country, 52-48. And I think it's now the job of Parliament to implement that decision, although anybody who thought it was going to be difficult massively underestimated the difficulties of taking a referendum where the result is not shared by the majority of members of Parliament, of getting that through the House of Commons. We never foresaw this, the situation that we're in, and it's very difficult. It's a great myth of evil dimensions. The peddling around the Labour Party has always been pro-European. When I was pushed out the Young Tories while helping to organise the boycott of South African goods in the town Chiswick where I lived, Gateska was making the case then that our arrangements with Europe were wrong. And for a very, very long period of time, that was the Labour Party's position, that they were opposed the entanglement with the European Union. And on every vote that I voted after Jeremy and John MacDonald came into the Commons, we would be in the same lobby together voting against any extension. And indeed, the Maastricht Treaty, which was really the destructive treaty to our independence and for us to have our own destiny, that was actually carried by Labour members against what the official Labour position was. Is Chequers a suitable outcome for this country? That's a question I can't answer. I don't actually know now where the Chequers agreement is. At some stage, we will obviously get the Prime Minister reporting back to the House of Commons, and we will be able to make a judgment. Clearly, most of the last 2 years have been wasted, I feel, in negotiations. When the Prime Minister announced that she was triggering Article 50, I begged her not to do so. I said, why are you doing it now? Why don't we get all our skittles into a clear line and then keep Europe waiting and then trigger Article 50? And now we find, when resignation after resignation, that there hasn't been a real alternative to what the Chequers plan as it emerged at Chequers, and the Chequers plan wasn't much good either. So we will obviously wait, maybe this week, maybe next week, for the Prime Minister to tell us where we are with our European negotiations, and then I think it will be the position of the House of Commons. We will have to come together and take a view on what is Brexit and how we can achieve it over a safe timeline. People speculate, quite rightly, about whether Mrs May's deal, the nature of which none of us know at the present time what it's actually going to entail. Will it pass the Commons? I'm unsure about that. I mean, there are basic things which we, in the long run, given that we've wasted 2 years, must achieve. We must control our borders. We must be in charge of the numbers of people coming into this country to work. And we also must ensure that we're not subjected to outside judicial regimes. And we must decide that only when we get a fair deal will we actually pay any money at all over to the Europeans. But I think we'll hear a lot more about whether those minimum terms are fulfilled in the May agreement or not. My own view is if they're not, then of course we have to seek alternatives. But I think the public now may well be bored, but it also understands how difficult these negotiations are if those who were representing the Brexit view in the cabinet hadn't actually really got a clear alternative that they were pushing. I think we'll have to start pushing that alternative publicly when we know, and if need be, after Mrs May has presented her terms that she's negotiated. I've always thought that the Brexit vote has significance way, way beyond us leaving the European Union. It was, for the first time, a question which many of my constituents and voters all over the country felt they had an answer to and wanted to get into polling booths to deliver that answer. If we don't deliver Brexit, then our politics will become even more sour than they are at present. And the job of the House of Commons will be, if the May document, when it comes back from Europe, doesn't fulfil the basic terms for leaving Europe, not immediately, but in the longer run, if it's not planned, then I think we'll have a real eruption and sourness in our electoral system, the like of which we've not seen for a very long time. I personally, for example, am not going to vote for just throwing ourselves out of Europe. Many Birkenhead voters work in Vauxhalls, and part of the transition that they should have been planning, the government, 2 years ago, to ensure that supply routes are safe, we're obviously going to have to do, maybe if it's not in the May document, once the House of Commons tries to assert its will over the process of ensuring that we do get Brexit. But Brexit, not by throwing ourselves out, by Brexit, by getting the maximum of gains of leaving, but also ensuring that often their biggest market in Europe remains open, and our market with them remains open.